It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 31, looking at the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Gabon. Part 2, the selections. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin, and this is a continuation of Series 31 on the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is part 2 of our coverage of Gabon's players, and we are going to move on to Section 3 and our Spotlight Review. That's what we begin with. We want to welcome listeners to the short version here of the mediacast, and let's talk about our Spotlight Review. That's a race through the squad, reviewing what we've covered, really what we've covered throughout parts 1 and 2. In part 1, we kind of compiled the list here and placed players according to their likelihood of reaching the final squad. And then in part 2, we were able to say who did make the final squad and the preliminary squad. And we made predictions as to who the starters were going to be. So let's start with the manager there, Thierry Moyuma. Has been in charge basically since for the whole period that we looked at. That's roughly the last 2 years, and he will lead them through this cup. So we treat him as if he is a selection for the final squad. For goalkeepers, we had a definite candidate in Lois Mbaba, who was selected, and then likely candidate Francois Bakale, also selected for the final squad. We had 3 candidates at the possible level. Only among them, Anse Ngubi Demba was selected for the final squad. The other 2 didn't even make the preliminary squad. Surprisingly, in the case of Junior Fotso Nubi, but also Lucas Munguenu, neither of them making the preliminary squad. Our seemingly off the squad player did make it, but we're only going to talk about players at the possible level or above here, unless they made the squad, so as not to overcomplicate things. So in terms of starters, we concluded that Lois Mbaba was the definite starter there. On to defence, and we had 2 candidates at the definite level, both of them making the final cut. That is Bruno Ekwel-Manga and Aaron Apindangoye, both of them selected. Our 2 likely candidates were also selected, Michel Mbula and Mick Omphia. And the first of our possible candidates also made the cut. That is Alex Mukatu Musunda. However, we had another candidate at the possible level, Yanis Mbemba, and he only made the preliminary squad there. We do have one new candidate on the list who was selected for the final squad. We actually had 3 candidates, but only one of them made the final squad, and that is Jonathan Domarcolino, making the final cut there. So we have 6 central defenders here, and that's pretty much what teams usually bring. In terms of starters, we think Bruno Ekwel-Manga, despite being, I think it was 37 years old, we think he's the definite starter there. We're not so sure about his partner though, so we gave 1 star to Aaron Apindangoye to represent him as a possible starter, and the other one we think Mick Omphia is a possible starter in central defence there. Let's go to the left back position. We had a definite candidate in Jacques Ekomi. Jacques Ekomi was selected for the final squad. So was our likely candidate, Johan Obiang. And those are the only 2. And between the 2 of them, we think Jacques Ekome is likely to start. Johan Obiang, just a possible starter there. Although we wouldn't be shocked to see Obiang starting in a different position on the field. Over to right backs. Here too, we only have two candidates, and they are twins. It's Anthony Oyono and Jeremy Oyono. And we think Anthony is the likely starter there. Jeremy, though, a possible starter. Up we go to defensive midfielders. We have a definite candidate in Mario Lemina, who was selected for the final squad. Two candidates at the possible level, Serge Junior Unguali. Serge Junior Unguali only making the preliminary squad there. But our other possible candidate, Clench Lufilu, making the final cut there. We also have a new candidate named to the preliminary squad who was selected, and that is Samake Nzebanama making the cut there. Before we look at starters, we will talk about central midfielders here, and we have at the definite level Gwailor Kanga. Gwailor Kanga was selected for the final squad. So were the two likely candidates on our list here, Andre Biogo Poko and Didier Ndong. All three of those, Kanga, Biogo Poko and Ndong, selected for the final squad. Now we can talk about potential starters, and that is actually a very solid trio in the midfield. And so we think it's likely that Gwailor Kanga, Didier Ndong, and Mario Lemina will be the starters there in a three-man midfield. Okay, let's move on upfield. We're just going to pause at right midfielders because we did have a possible candidate coded as a right midfielder. It's Teddy Averland, and he was selected for the final squad. Now we go up to left attacking midfielders. I'm kind of waiting for my graphics to behave properly here. And we have a definite candidate in... Oh, well, I'm all over the place here. We have a definite candidate in Dennis Bouanga, and really just he's the only candidate over here, although we have seen some of the right attacking midfielders starting on this side. Nevertheless, we consider Dennis Bouanga a definite starter, probably on this side, but potentially could start as a forward if Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is for some reason not available. Anyway, Dennis Bouanga, we think a definite starter. Over to the right side, where things are much less clear, we have a likely candidate in Jim Alavina, and he was selected for the final squad, and two possible candidates, David Zambisa, not selected for the final squad, just the preliminary squad for him, and Xavi Babika, who did make the final cut. However, both Alavina and Babika are kind of at the end of injuries, so they are recovered, but we think both of them may not be fit enough to start. We'll talk about that a little later when we get to the injury situation. They do have a new candidate over here, an interesting one, Royce Openda. And he was given the start in the November playoff game, a very important game, right in the center of midfield. And that was his debut game. So that was pretty interesting. Royce Openda on the squad, and we'll see what role he plays in the cup. In terms of predictions here, though, we were unable to make a prediction as to who would be the starter on the right side. Actually, Royce Openda is looking quite possible there. Central attackers, they really don't use this position that much. It's only used in a 4-2-3-1 formation, and they only use that in one of their 18 games over the period. So we're going to predict that they're not going to use this position. Nevertheless, we did have a couple of candidates here. The first one at the likely level is really the only surprise non-selection. It's Noha Lamina, brother of Mario Lemina, quite quite a bit younger brother, who we thought was likely to be selected actually, but only named to the preliminary squad. Meanwhile, the possible candidate, Eric Bokum, was selected for the final squad there. And our last category is forwards. Here we have definite candidate Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who was selected for the final squad. And then we had three candidates at the possible level. The first one, Alan Do Marcolino, older brother of the Jonathan Do Marcolino, who we saw was selected. However, Alan was not. Just made the preliminary squad there. Our second possible candidate, Edlin Randy Isang Matuti, was selected for the final squad, but the third possible candidate, Brian Mayo Ngua, not even selected for the preliminary squad there. And we do have a new candidate here. Again, not a new player. He's actually been around for quite a while. Malik Mvuna. We call him new because he hadn't appeared for the squad over the past couple of years, so he wasn't on our list for part one. But Malik Mvuna making a comeback here, named to the final squad. And we only have three forwards here, so we're a bit thin in the offensive end of the field, I would say. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Malik Mvuna at least subbed in to a game. However, our prediction there is we would be shocked if Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang wasn't the starter. So we think he will be the definite starter there. All right, that brings us to the end of the Spotlight review. So let's move to the conclusion here, the closing graphic. And thank you for joining us here for Gabon. And we hope we see you for our next team.
We would like to thank Pixabay and Cold Fingers for the wonderful music used in this mediacast. The title of the piece is Eid Mubarak.